So Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is one of those games that really just come completely out of the blue. It was launched on Game Pass, Xbox Game Pass, for both the PC and the Xbox, although it is also available for the PlayStation 5. I think because it hit Game Pass, that gave it a real injection of publicity. That actually made people play it in the first place. And then, wham, suddenly people were saying, whoa, what is this? This could be the game of the year. I normally view such claims with skepticism, and I think, and if they keep being made, because normally they die down and you never hear about it, but when they keep being made, then I think, I'm going to play that game, and I'm going to find out for myself whether it is or it isn't. I can say straight away, the story is so original, is so unusual. You were watching some of the gameplay before we started this review, and you were kind of blown away by the video. You're like, is that the Eiffel Tower? What the hell?
Yeah, like it looks very interesting. It grabs your attention. It really hooks you in early.
Yeah, the hook is... I mean, the game world is like nothing else you've seen before. It's basically this... It's a very French-flavoured game, I should point out, because the developers are French. I'm going to describe it as a AA game rather than a pure indie game, because there were quite a lot of people involved in making it, although it was a core team that drove things like the narrative, for example, which is one of the strongest aspects of the game. It's about this town called Lumiere, which is kind of funny. I mean, you saw the Eiffel Tower there, and there has been this kind of weird calamity that's befallen them. Everything's broken. There's parts of buildings floating in the air.
Colourful plants.
Exactly. It's something has gone badly wrong here, and there's this big monolith in the distance. And it started out at 99, and basically every year it ticks down. And that corresponds with something called the Gommage, which is an event every year. I'm probably losing viewers. They're like, what the hell is he talking about? There's this event called the Gommage every year, where basically everyone in Lumiere, who is the age that is on the monolith, basically stop existing. They just float away into leaves and petals.
Oh.
And the monolith has now got down to 33. So obviously people are now dying quite young. But what the good people of Lumiere have been doing is everyone who is due to Gommage goes out on an expedition. And those expeditions are numbered along with the number on the monolith. So they're ticking down. So they've been going since 99.
Trying to get to the monolith? Is that their goal? Or?
Well, so basically they know that this is all being caused by somebody called the Paintress. And their goal is basically to go to stop the Paintress, to fix Lumiere and the world, and to stop the Gommage once and for all. You take the role of Gustav, who is the leader of Expedition 33. I'm not sure if he's the leader from the start or if he just becomes it. Yeah, maybe I wasn't paying attention at the beginning. But he's a really clever chap. And I should point out, he's really well voice acted. So the voice acting for the English version, which is obviously the version I played because I can't speak French, they are actually all English voice actors, or they have all English accents anyway. Really incredibly well performed. And Gustav is this kind of tortured protagonist who, along with Looney, basically develops a lot of this kind of magic-y technology that they're using to help them on their expeditions. And they have Maëlle with them, who is obviously not nearly 33. She's quite young, and she's actually Gustav's adoptive daughter, because obviously kids having to get adopted quite a lot due to the fact that a load of people die every year. And you go out on this expedition, and well, I'm not going to say any more because spoilers, but let's just say
the van or stuff gets interesting.
Both of those things.
Both of those things. So the story sounds really, really interesting. I'm not sure if I've heard of anything similar being done before.
It's so
definitely an original concept, but also it's really got me hooked. So I do want to play this game just from hearing the story. But as we know, games can't just survive on their story. So how's the gameplay, and what type of game is it?
So it's an action RPG, but with turn-based combat. And I would just want to say, before anyone goes, oh no, that's not for me there, just hear us out on this. I know turn-based combat is not for everyone. I know that. I'm not personally the world's biggest fan of turn-based
I don't mind it. I used to enjoy it as a kid, personally.
So it's easy to sell you on this.
Yeah, 100%.
However, I mean, you're basically running around this world. Once the expedition departs, you've got access to this open world. There's a hub, and you can go to different worlds within this hub. You do meet some new characters along the way, and you also find flags from previous expeditions where you can save the game, and also you can read their journal entries, find out what they've been trying to do and how badly they've been, how badly they've died. And you also see bodies as well from the previous expeditions that are kind of petrified in stone, and it's really eerie. It's really eerie, kind of finding all these dead people, and kind of knowing as well that there's a fairly good chance that expeditions, or certainly the characters are thinking, yeah, we're probably going to end up the same way, considering how things are going. So in both of the hub and the actual sort of instance game areas, you will see enemies walking around. There's no random battles. You actually see the enemies there.
And you approach them and attack them.
Yeah, I mean, you can approach them and it'll initiate a fight. You can actually sort of open with an attack, which will give you the first strike as well, which makes things easier. And you've got this turn-based system. You've got loads of choice, loads of there's all these different. If you like skill trees and abilities, then you're going to love this, because there's a lot of that to build into, and there is a bit of quick time as well. You can dodge out of the way of moves, and you can make your some of your hits more powerful by hitting the quick time events at the right time.
So it's an interactive turn-based strategy game where you have that quick time and ability to improve your attacks. With the skill trees and the RPG element, obviously RPGs, especially with skill trees, can often be a bit grindy, or the skill trees can be a bit confusing. What about this? Does it handle that well?
It is a touch confusing. And I'm not proud to admit this, and I get people in the comments already telling me that what a terrible game jealous am. So maybe I'm kind of playing into the hands with this, but there were one or two elements of the game. There was one in particular that literally I was just heading towards the final boss, and I worked it out. And I thought, oh, that's what that does. It literally eluded me for the entire game. So it's a little bit complicated, but on the other side of that, I had completely ignored it up until that point successfully. Although I was playing the PC version, but I had, for reasons that I will elaborate on in a moment, had to mod it quite significantly. So yeah, it is quite complicated. I mean, the skill trees aren't complicated. There was, like I said, there was that one mechanic that kind of eluded me until the end. It's not going to be the turn-based game. It's not like Mario and Rabbids, which is a turn-based combat game that really brought aboard a load of people that previously hated turn-based combat. It is turn-based combat. There is a bit of complication.
And what about grindiness? Is there much of a grind to level up characters to stay strong enough to defeat the new enemies?
I think as long as you're fighting the enemies and not avoiding them,
yeah,
it's pretty plain going. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
I will say though, there's a pretty sizable main game there. But once you've defeated that final boss and you've watched the ending, one of two endings actually, because there are multiple endings. They're quite complex endings where there's no black and white good and bad ending. You have to make a pretty significant decision. Once you're into the post game, the difficulty level really ramps up, and the post game, I would argue, actually is there for people who really enjoy the turn-based combat. Prior to that, you're kind of playing it for the story. If you're just immersed in the story and you've got to see how it ends, you may not necessarily want to carry on into the post game. It really is for people who just want the challenge stepped up, and there are a lot of difficulty sliders and options as well, I should point out as well.
Is there still a story in post game, or is it purely just exploration and combat?
No, there are narrative elements. I mean, the main story has wrapped up by the end of the game. I mean, you get some major revelations. it's the story is, I cannot overemphasize how incredibly good the story is, and the surprises that they have, and the explanations for things that they have are all really satisfying and really good. But in the post game, it's more about exploring, because the post game does actually put you back to just before the boss fight, because obviously a lot of things would be impacted by which ending you choose. And but there are actually, there's more bits of lore. There's more about the previous expeditions. There are actually these creatures called gestrels that largely friendly creatures that live in the world, and you interact with them. You actually recruit one of them to your team, actually. So yeah, there is definitely, if you're really into the story, I suppose you're not just playing it for the extra challenge. There is a lot more extra context there as well.
So how long did it take you to complete then without the post game?
So it was 27 hours. That was basically to drive to the ending. And I should point out as well, if you like to see both endings, because the post game puts you to just before the boss fight, well, you just go to the boss and then pick the other ending, because you do pick, right, it is literally a choice at the end.
Oh, that's quite good then. It's not like a choice you make halfway through and you're like, oh, I wish I'd made another choice.
Yeah. In the tutorial, we make a choice and then it holds you to that throughout the whole game. So it's been done before.
It's a long enough game with enough post game. It's not too long. It's the right amount, I'd argue.
I would agree with that. Yeah, it doesn't outstay its welcome.
And how does it run? I mean, and how does it look graphically? Is it pleasing to the eye, and does it run smoothly?
Okay, so that these are unwittingly complicated questions you've just asked me now. So the game, it's got all the usual technology. I mean, the PC version's got DLSS and all that. I think they did actually patch frame generation in just as I was completing the game. And I didn't play this game on release. I was sort of riding the hype train and was, visiting it a few weeks after release. The graphics are gorgeous, and it is beautifully directed, but it doesn't support HDR, which kind of blows my mind in this day and age. I mean, like I said, it's
how colourful it is as well.
I know.
You think it'd be made for HDR?
I mean, I had to use the NVIDIA RTX HDR, which is basically NVIDIA's pretend HDR for games that don't have it. But I found that really disappointing, actually. There are other weird technical issues as well, like when the cutscenes were playing, they're in a box. I don't know why.
How big a box?
Smaller than my monitor, probably about half the size of the display on my monitor. And I had to go to a modding site and download. There's a really good fix mod for it that sorts out the stuttering and silly little technical issues, and sorts out the you suddenly get an unlocked frame rate in the cutscenes, and it actually fills your screen. I mean, imagine that, a cutscene filling the screen. I mean, who would have thought? Who would have thought that would be a good idea? Like I said, I use my graphics card's inbuilt pretend HDR to sort that out. So yeah, I suppose technically it's a bit of a mess, and that's a real shame, because this game reminds me already, because of how good the story and how well written and original it is, it reminds me of another game called Nier Automata, which is it's actually in my top 10 favourite games of all time, Nier Automata. And that was also an unbelievably buggy mess. And it took Square Enix literally years to fix it. And I've got a feeling this is going to be this. I mean, they have they've patched a few things in, like frame generation, but
without getting completely sidetracked, do you think that's partly due to what you said to begin with? They're kind of not an indie, you're classing them as a double A. Could it be more budgetary? And
no, because the game has been massively successful. This game has so, and also a lot of people don't understand the Game Pass model. If you have a game on Game Pass and lots of people play it, you get paid more. So obviously lots of people have played it on Game Pass. That's a cash injection. Obviously lots of people have purchased it. That's a cash. So this game has done well.
They can fix these issues.
Yeah, and they should have done, really. I mean, to their credit, they've not been pumping out nonsense DLCs and stuff like that, but they should have really fixed. If they could put together a magnificent game like this, they can fix the very, very obvious bugs. Even if they hire somebody in to do it for them and give them some of that money that they've made, they owe it to the people that have paid for this game to really do that.
So what are the pros and cons then?
Starting with the pros, that incredibly original story. It's emotional, it's completely unpredictable. The endings will punch you in different parts of your body depending on which one you pick. That's a good, I should point out, that's a good thing. Gorgeously directed steampunk visual design. I don't know if you're getting that from, it's especially kind of the opening, that really wonderful steampunk vibe is really, really well executed here. The game world is absolutely massive. And that's just when you're playing the story. It opens up into a really lengthy post-game. The voice acting is universally flawless. You've got Charlie Cox voicing Gustav, the protagonist. You've got Andy Serkis as the antagonist. And, I mean, you already know they're fantastic. But the thing is, then all the other actors are as good as them. The voice acting really is top-notch. The soundtrack is absolutely beautiful and Gallic-flavoured. I said Gallic, not garlic.
I was about to pull you off on that. Garlic-flavoured?
Don't pull me off. We'll have to do those funny age checks because of our really oppressive legal situation here in the UK. And then, of course, you've got the flawless characterization, world building, and indeed the overall standard of writing, which is just, I can't throw enough praise at it. In terms of cons, well, you've got some really major technical issues. I played the PC version. I had to fix them with mods. You can't do that on the console versions. I don't know how bad the console versions are in comparison to this. I can't imagine. They still probably don't have things like HDR. There's this really weird sharpening effect. You have to fix it with a mod. No HDR, as I mentioned. Frame rate limited cutscenes, displaying frame rate locks and in a box. It's just, yes, it's fixable with mods on the PC. You shouldn't have to.
But some people won't want to mod it. They don't mod games.
Everyone does. Yeah.
Some people have it on consoles where you can't.
Yeah, exactly.
So that is still can be a big deal, but I mean they sound very frustrating, but don't sound game breaking.
Yeah, and I think that's fair to say. Yeah, I mean I mentioned Nier Automata as a point of comparison. That and unless you ran certain bits of software that turned off parts of your processor, that would just constantly crash. So yeah, it's not as bad as that. It really isn't as bad as that. Also, turn-based combat, it just isn't for everyone. You like it. I'm not a big fan of it. I put up with it because it's such a great game. Some people are going to be irrevocably put off by that, and I understand that. Maybe watch it on YouTube or something. I'm giving it a score of 92%, which on our review scale is outstanding. And I will point out it would have got much higher than that if not for those really serious technical issues. It is a magnificent game, and it is held back by that.